Hey guys, I kinda forgot I said I'd have a video come out in early September. Yeah, sorry, I've just been really preoccupied playing Raincode and its DLC. It is so good, and I really want to talk about it soon. But I need some more time to collect my thoughts before I can make any major videos about it. Anyway, the game has gotten me thinking. Isn't it kind of crazy that Danganronpa Decadence was ported to Switch 2 years ago? I mean, I still remember that reveal like it was yesterday. You should have seen my reaction.
What?
Celebrate 10 years of
Wait.
Danganronpa in despair.
Up on Switch?
For those of you who don't know, I really like Danganronpa. As in, Danganronpa 1 and 2 are tied for my favorite game of all time, and Danganronpa UDG and V3 are in like top 7. In fact, my first ever video on this channel was a Danganronpa meme, which is now unlisted because wow, that one was bad. Anyway, Danganronpa Decadence releasing back in 2021 was huge for me because it meant 3 of my favorite games of all time coming to my favorite console of all time. Danganronpa S was there too. And since there were anime streaming softwares on Switch, you could almost enjoy the entire Danganronpa franchise on Nintendo Switch. Saying it now still doesn't even feel real. But I said almost. There was one mainline sort of Danganronpa game missing from the collection. Danganronpa Another Episode Ultra Despair Girls. I spent a long time waiting for this to get shadow dropped in a Nintendo Direct or something, but it just never happened. There have been lots of rumors and questions and speculation about it, but those died down over time, and that kinda disappointed me as someone who was really holding out hope for it to come onto Switch. Say what you want about its bad 3D animation, and its bad gameplay, and its bad fan service, and its bad Haji. It's an extremely flawed experience, and every time I go back to it, these flaws only become more and more apparent. Yet, I love it all the same, if for nothing more than its characters, story, and world building it adds to the series. It's a big part of the series timeline, and having it be the only one that never made it onto Switch just feels so weird and incomplete. So today, I want to look into the evidence, the theories, and the questions we've been left with. I've spent the last few years silently waiting, and with the Switch seemingly almost at the end of its lifespan, this is probably about the last time I can wonder, is Danganronpa Ultra Despair Girls ever making it to Switch? I think we should start this off by asking another question that's integral to this case. That being, why wasn't UDG included in Danganronpa Decadence? If we can figure this out, it may give us an idea of UDG's future chances on the console. But before we get into that, I have a little tangent to get into about the Danganronpa Decadence box art because I don't know when I'll get another chance to say this. First off, I will never forgive this for giving me false hope that another episode was going to be included. Why is Komaru in the box art if Ultra Despair Girls isn't even included? Same with Toko. Sure, she was in the first game, but if this is supposed to represent the first game, why choose Toko instead of a more important character like Byakuya or Kyoko? Anyway, why wasn't another episode included in Danganronpa Decadence? I've heard a few theories. The first being, UDG's playstyle really clashes with the others in the collection. This is one that kind of makes sense to me, but only with some really stupid logic. While the rest of the DR games are more exploration / visual novel, Ultra Despair Girls is more of an action / first-person shooter / first-person exploration / visual novel. Maybe the people at Spike Chunsoft or Nintendo just thought UDG wouldn't fit well in the collection. I guess I can sort of see this idea being true, even if I don't agree with it. But if it were, don't you think they would have just ported it without including it in Decadence? That would mean more money anyway, since people would have to buy it separately. The Switch port of the Danganronpa games introduced a ton of new people to the franchise and created a lot of new fans. Really, the games are just kind of market each other. So I'm not fully convinced on this one. At least I don't think it's the entire reason. It's just too weird of a choice. Then again, Nintendo loves weird choices, so what do I know? Sort of building off the last one, some have said that they didn't include it because it's a spin-off game. This doesn't make any sense to me. First off, my arguments for the last segment still apply. Second, they also included Danganronpa S in this collection, which is also a spin-off, plus isn't even canon, which Ultra Despair Girls is, so like, come on. The next theory I've actually heard unreasonably often. Ultra Despair Girls wasn't included in Decadence because it's a bad game. Well, obviously I disagree with this one fundamentally because I do not think it's a bad game, but even if this was the case, they included Danganronpa S, so it's obvious that quality wasn't high on the priority list. Next up, UDG wasn't included because its content is too explicit. See, this game is not exactly for good boys and girls. It tackles a lot of really dark themes, significantly more so than any other Danganronpa game. This kind of explicit content and fan service has been on a gradual rise in this series through its entire lifespan, which kind of annoys me, but that's a topic for another day. Even if the other Danganronpa games had some pretty questionable stuff in them, Ultra Despair Girls definitely pushes the envelope the most, which is a big reason this game is hated by so many people. There was even an interview with Spike Chunsoft developers where some said that Ultra Despair Girls might have a bit too much sensitive content for the Switch. I can see the argument that Nintendo, which generally tries to stay wholesome and kid-friendly, wouldn't want to be associated with such a game. Though I still think this theory isn't true. While Ultra Despair Girls would definitely be one of the most risque games added to the Nintendo library, have you been on the eShop before? I mean, there's a new hentai game at the top of the Great Deals tab every other week. It's obvious Nintendo has sort of lowered their bar on this kind of stuff, and I find it pretty hard to justify drawing the line at specifically Ultra Despair Girls. So, sorry, you're not fooling me, Nintendo. Okay, now for the theory I think is actually pretty likely. That being that Ultra Despair Girls doesn't have a mobile port. When the rest of the DR games were ported to Switch, they supposedly used the mobile ports of these games as a basis. Ultra Despair Girls, however, is the only game to have never gotten a mobile port. I haven't seen any confirmation that Danganronpa Decadence used the mobile versions of these games as its basis, but as far as I can tell, it did. Honestly, this reason's just a more complicated way of saying they were lazy. It would have required more effort to put Ultra Despair Girls on Switch, so they didn't do it. Though this does sort of just bring us back around to, if they didn't want to include UDG and Decadence, why not just sell it separately? Well, it's time we talk about the idea of it coming on its own, and why exactly it hasn't yet. Like, okay, let's make it clear that we know, 100% know that Spike Chunsoft was genuinely considering it. Around the release of Decadence, Spike Chunsoft released a survey asking fans for their thoughts on porting the game to Switch. I distinctly remember this because I did the survey on like 10 different accounts saying I wanted it. Spike Chunsoft developers have also come out to say that they'll try to make it happen if fans are vocal enough. Yeah, fans are not very vocal about it anymore. I'm kind of the only one talking about it at this point. I mean, when Decadence came out, there were plenty of people talking about Ultra Despair Girls, but like I said, that's kind of died down. I'm really just working with a few interview quotes, a survey, and a bunch of tweets from 2022. But if there's anything this series has taught me, it's that hope can prevail. And there is one more thing that really gives me that hope to think that this game may be able to come in the future, and that is Master Detective Archives' Raincode. Raincode's recent release means that Nintendo and Spike Chunsoft are still working together, meaning Spike still has every opportunity to propose UDG, though the chance for it to end up on Switch specifically is sort of slipping away. The Switch is pretty clearly in its twilight years. We got our major releases for pretty much every major Nintendo series, and Mario Wonder looks like it'll be about the last one before the next console pops up. Luckily, Ultra Despair Girls would just be a port, one that'll fit in just right with the other niche shadow drops in the middle of Nintendo Directs. But let's say it doesn't make it on the Switch. What about the Switch 2? Well, assuming the next console is backwards compatible, I guess the game could literally show up at any time. But even if it's not, the Switch 2 is obviously going to need some third-party ports to fill up its library in its early days, and UDG could totally work here. Honestly, I don't even care at this point. I just want it ported to a switchy Nintendo console. So please, if you're watching this and want this game like I do, take the word to the street. Let's revive the conversations. Get this trending online. Email Nintendo and Spike Chunsoft every hour of the day if that's what it takes. Let's get Danganronpa Ultra Despair Girls on Switch. Or if it has to be the next console, so be it. Please, just please let it happen. And if it doesn't, well, that would be quite despair-inducing.